Well, we're welcoming in Jacob Modleski. Jacob, it's been a busy stretch for you. USAM after a long summer, Walker Cup, and already three fall tournaments. Well, first off, thanks for coming on, and also, how's the energy level?
Energy level's good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being on the show.
Now, for those who can't see, who are just listening to this, you have a Notre Dame flag off to your left and an American flag. Talk about the significance of the decor and what looks like it kind of looks like a little bit of an army barracks there. It doesn't quite look like a dorm room. You got a bunk
Yeah,
bed.
yeah. I'm in a I'm a single in a double sized room, so I bunked the beds to give me some more space. But no, I think both those flags are they sum up kind of the motto of Notre Dame, God Country Notre Dame, and um, yeah, being able to play in the Walker Cup certainly um, was a lifelong dream, and it is a testament to my love of Notre Dame and the country for sure.
Well, let's talk about the Walker Cup. You've had a few weeks now to digest that week and that experience. Uh, what do you feel like you took away most from being a part of that squad?
I'd say honestly took away most is just being around those guys for that week and kind of seeing what it's like to be a part of that team and represent the United States. It was cool. We had Ben and Stu who had obviously been there before. So like the biggest thing was just learning from them, trying to take everything in and make sure that like you just said, I'm documenting everything, um, trying to write down all the things that happened so I can come back and look at those in the future because there's so much that happens in such a short amount of time. It's a very very busy week.
Do you typically journal? Like, have you been doing that for quite a while?
Yeah, I have, and it's not necessarily all just golf, but I think it helps me a lot reflect, make sure I'm kind of where I want to be. It's really easy in college golf. To kind of get ahead of yourself. You got a lot of events coming up. There's always something to look forward to. So it makes it really easy maybe to forget about a week that you didn't have your best stuff and move on to the next week. But it can be harder to make sure you kind of focus on what you did well and when you played well, and honestly, even when you just had great experiences, regardless of how you played.
Now, someone whose journal isn't quite as long as yours is Mason Howell. You partnered with him. What was your takeaway from what a 18-year-old who didn't even know that getting into the final of the USAM got you into the Masters and the U.S. Open, didn't even know about the Walker Cup automatic exemption. What was your observation of seeing what he was able to do on the big stage?
Yeah, he's a very mature player, and it was really cool to see. There was no part of that week in any way that seemed like he wasn't up for it or wasn't immediately ready to kind of jump in. And when your partner's making 35 footers from all over the map, it's awesome. I just had to hit it somewhere on the green and let him putt. So, but no, he was a great partner. I thought we gelled together really well. Um, yeah, it was just such a cool experience to be paired with him.
There might have been other guys on that team that were more nervous than he was.
100%. Yeah, no, he was ready to take down just about anything.
Now, you went straight from Cyprus to your first college event in Michigan at American Dunes Folds of Honor. Most guys would have said, "All right, I'm done. I'm exhausted. Like it's September. Like I'm all right, coach. Just let me go home and get some rest." But you chose to go play. Tell us what that travel was like. How'd you make it there in time, and why was it important for you to be there to tee it up?
Yeah, so coach and I talked about that before I had left for the summer. Coach was like, we're looking ahead. If you're on the team, what do you want to do? So it wasn't something that I was, kind of saddled with after the USAM. It was something I had kind of prepared for, and I told coach it, as long as you think I'll make it there, you know, like that night, yeah, I want to play, and I felt like if there was a chance I could contribute to the team, then it was kind of my obligation to be there and tee it up for the boys here. And yeah, it was a bit of a long night. I took off from Cyprus at 9:45, maybe landed at 4:30 local time, and we had a 2 p.m. tea time, so I was actually feeling pretty good on the first tee. I was a little more tired the second day, in the 8 a.m. tee time, but no, it was fun. I definitely would do it again. And yeah, I just felt like if I could help, then it's kind of my job.
So your Walker Cup celebration got cut a little bit short.
A little bit. I had plenty of time to spend with the guys at Cyprus. So I was basically there all the way until they hopped on the bus and went back to the hotel. But yeah, I still got a fair amount of celebration. I was there for all the ceremonies and pictures, and yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, that would have been strange if you would have, jet set it off before pictures, and there's nine
Yeah,
guys,
yeah,
and
yeah. No, no.
Captain Smith at the
I
photos.
made sure I was there for all parts of the evening except for the last part.
Now you have three top tens already. I think I was going back this year alone in college golf, seven top fives, which has to be, if not number one in college golf, has to be up there. But what do you credit to that consistency? How you're able to kind of show up event after event?
You know, I think a lot of it probably comes down to the not physical parts of golf. I feel like I make sure that I think well around the golf course and do everything I can to prepare and have a very good plan of how I'm going to attack a golf course. And execution can be all over the board, but that's one thing that I'm kind of fully in control of. And I feel like it allows me to play within myself and play with whatever game I have, whether I've got my best stuff or maybe something less than that. Um, and yeah, I feel like it's it builds to consistency, because like I said, it's the only thing that I can control week in and week out.
What does your yardage book look like? If you had to give us kind of a synopsis of maybe
Yeah.
what a
So there's a decade chart on the top, with a few other factors of things that I factor in, to I don't know if anyone's familiar with decade, to subtract and add extra distances away from short sides of the greens. Then there's a big wedge book on the bottom. Um, yeah, yeah, those are kind of the two things I focus on in terms of course management and distance control. And I feel like if I can control those two things well, I'll play well most of the time.
does it change at all based on how you're playing, kind of how you attack a golf course or
No, no, and it's something that I've worked to not change. And it really it takes a lot of discipline when you're 500 through 12 and you got a flag that's back left and it just fits your eye for that high draw. But I feel like I've done well so far this year. There's still room to improve, um, in terms of making sure you're very disciplined to the targets you're selecting. But no, I'd like to say no, no, it doesn't change at all.
now there's probably a reason why you have such great attention to detail and your meticulous nature probably goes back to how you were raised. Talk
For
about your
sure.
beginnings in golf. How'd you get introduced to it, and what were those early days like? How did you learn how to become the player that you are?
So I grew up playing a lot with my older brother, um, and then playing a lot with my grandfather. So my mom and dad play golf, but not a whole lot. Whenever we visit my grandfather, we'd go out and play, whether it was in Chicago or down in Florida. Um, yeah, I grew up playing at home mostly with my brother, um, and so I got to watch him play all through high school golf as a spectator, and then as I got into middle school and high school golf, I was taking it a little bit more seriously. But it wasn't really until maybe sophomore year of high school that I was like, all right, this is, I want to play golf. I played freshman basketball and freshman soccer. Had no career as a goalie at 5'5" and 100 pounds. So I think I made a better decision in terms of what sport I wanted to stick with. But
Why'd they
um,
have you in goal? It shouldn't have
I
been.
I could catch my feet. I played football, and so my solution was to play soccer my freshman year. I was 5 foot, like I said, 5'4" or 5 and 100 and nothing pounds. So I figured soccer, at least I'd have a chance. But of course my footwork was no good, so I could catch. But yeah, it didn't I didn't take out much of the goal. So it wasn't the most maybe successful position for me. But I enjoyed it, and there's nothing I'd change about any of the sports I played growing up. Golf was kind of a later addition, in terms of a sport that I took really seriously. But I'm I'm glad I didn't, jump into it too young. A lot of the early memories I have are very not competitive and very much just kind of learning to enjoy the game. And then once I was at 14 or 15 years old, that's when I really wanted to take it serious.
What were those non-competitive days like? I mean, we hear kids all the time talk about they remember like getting a soda or a slice of pizza afterwards. Is that kind of similar with you?
Yeah, yeah, it would be just spending time with my grandfather and my brother and my dad. There's a lot of rounds we all four played together. Um, and yeah, I'll remember those. I'll remember those moments forever for sure.
Now, your dad has a pretty cool career. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so he was in the Air Force for 20 years. He flew F-16s, A-10s, was on Thunderbirds for 2 years, and but like you mentioned in terms of how I was raised, it definitely played a role, um, a big role. He coached our middle school football team growing up, and definitely learned a lot from him about leadership. Learned a lot from him in terms of not necessarily you know basically just acting right, making the
Yeah.
right decisions, and kind of understanding how they impact you down the road. Um, but things you've mentioned, like attention to detail, focusing on doing your job, are a lot of the same principles we took away from youth sports or just around the house with my brother. We got into our fair share of problems, as most brothers do. Um, but yeah, he played a big role in where I am now for sure.
Now, he also wrote a book. Have you read the book?
I have read the book. It's been a little while since I've read the book, but I am aware that I'm in there, and I about 7 years old with a buzz cut. So it's uh it's it's funny to go back and look at some of the pictures that are in that book, and read through some of the stories that obviously I know I'm a part of. Um, and yeah, my dad's played such a big role in my life, and that book speaks volumes about him as a person, and the role he's had.
Well, we'll pub his book a little bit on here if people want to go buy it. It's called The
Yeah,
American Dream and What We Must Do to Secure Our Children's Dreams, and it's Matthew Modleski. So it's on Amazon. It's I think it's available. So if
should
people
be. Yeah.
go check that out. The recruiting process for you. What if you had to describe, maybe the level of recruit you were? How would you kind of contextualize that?
Um, I would say I was a solid recruit, especially in the Midwest. But I wasn't a super nationally touted recruit. Now, I heard from
Mhm.
schools, maybe from a little bit of all over, but I wasn't, between the SEC and Notre Dame, or between, powerhouse, maybe not powerhouse golf schools, but I was mostly in the Midwest. And once I visited Notre Dame, it was extremely clear that that's where I wanted to go, which is exactly what you want in the recruiting process. You want to go to a place and kind of see it and experience the campus, and meet all the people and think, that's where you want to go. And that was exactly what happened at Notre Dame. I fell in love with the place. I came for a night game against North Carolina a few years ago, and I mean, if you go to a night game at Notre Dame and don't walk out of there thinking like, yeah, I'd like to go there, then I don't know. I feel like something might be wrong. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, I imagine North Carolina was a little bit better a couple years ago on the football field than they are now with Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it was a pretty good game. I remember watching I think it was Kyron Williams run like 92 yards down the sideline. I was basically in an end zone. And yeah, I still remember that. So it was some cool memories from that night.
now Notre Dame has pretty elite facilities as well. The Warren Course, which has hosted numerous tournaments, USGA events. What do you feel like stands out about where you guys get to spend every day?
Um, I honestly I think it's probably just how well kept it is, and that's a testament to Matt Yops and the whole crew at Warren. They go. I mean, it's a public course. It gets pretty beat up, and those guys just take unbelievable care of us and of the facility. And yeah, we're really grateful to have such a great team because they keep it in phenomenal condition for us. When we come back in the fall, it's like absolutely perfect. There is not one divot on the whole tee deck. Um, and on top of that, we're blessed to have very, very good indoor resources, which is um, an important piece of being competitive in the off season when we're kind of stuck indoors. Um, and coach does everything he can to get us down, down on grass as often as he can. So we're really just fortunate with kind of what we're able to do from an off season and an in season basis.
How many times have you played Seminole, with the
Um,
connection to Jimmy
I've
Dunn and
played So I've played Seminole. We've gone down there once as a team, and then I was down there last year for the practice session, the Orca practice session. So just twice. Which
what's your
I mean,
relationship like? Well, what's your relationship like with Mr. Dunn?
it's great. He's such an important piece of our program. I was fortunate to see him at Cypress. He came up and just said he's so proud, and it's always great to see him. He's got such a busy schedule, and he's so important in the game of golf. And so to have somebody like that kind of on your team and behind you is just it means a lot.
Yeah, I was the first time I was at Seminole, knowing that the tee markers are the same paint as the helmets at Notre Dame, and you got
Yeah,
the be a champion today sign there. It's pretty neat the connection that he has. I mean, it's like all of our schools that we go to. We love our schools, and it's cool that he has that impact. For you, the turning point I feel like was your freshman year Jones Cup. You win that. That kind of put you on the map nationally at an amateur level. What do you feel like that week did for you?
it did a lot. It opened a lot of doors. It made a lot of things possible in terms of scheduling summer events and connections to people. But it wouldn't have been possible without a lot of people kind of going to bat for me. I'm sure you're familiar with the story, but I was an alternate, and I was only
Yep.
an alternate because Coach Handergan and some other people at Notre Dame and beyond vouched really hard for me to try to get in that field, and felt like if I was just could get in the field, I'd have a chance to compete. Um, and so it was really cool to end up winning that tournament, knowing that obviously I was the one that was playing, but it wouldn't have been possible without so many other people kind of helping me. And I, there's not many schools that would have gotten a freshman with maybe my resume. Not that I didn't think I could play well or compete or win, but there's not many places that would have kind of gone to bat or and somehow been able to get me in that field, um, like Notre Dame. And so I'm just grateful for all the people that kind of made that happen because like you said, it was such a big part of um, you know first stepping stones of my big time amateur career. And yeah, it just wouldn't have been possible without other people.
And then it got you into the RSM Classic as well, kind of
Yep.
later that year.
Yeah, it did.
What were your takeaways from playing in your first PGA Tour event?
Yeah, it was a great event. I love Sea Island. Every time I get to go down to Sea Island, it's just such an awesome experience. I didn't have much of my best stuff from a golf perspective, but it didn't take away from my ability to kind of learn and reflect on the week. And it was cool to be out there and see a lot of the guys that watched on TV and get to see them in person, warm up next to them on the range, in the locker room. And yeah, I think the next time I've got an opportunity to play in one of those events, I'll be a little bit more calm about it. I think with every amateur's first PGA Tour event, you're kind of a little bit on edge, and it was just cool to get out there. And once you're on the golf course, it's just around a golf. So go out there and play. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next opportunity I might have.
Yeah, it's definitely a good event to kind of tiptoe into because it's the fall. It's the last event. Although the
Yeah,
pressure's amped because everyone's fighting for their jobs too. People call it kind of like a sleepy tournament, but
yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
not.
cutthroat
No,
at times.
there's a lot going on that week for sure.
Now the Walker Cup pressure this year. I mean, obviously you were on the bubble the entire way, basically. Was that pretty noticeable for you, just from your from a stress standpoint, or did you feel like you did a pretty good job, kind of keeping it at bay?
It was noticeable early in the summer. Um, yeah, the first couple events like NCAA's, Sunnyhanna Am, the Northeast Am, I was definitely not letting it affect me, but it was more present in my mind, because it's crazy to think about, but a one good week there basically solidifies your spot on the whole team, just based off rankings and kind of what winning one of those events can do for you. So it was a little bit too present in my mind, and I struggled at the Northeast Am. I didn't have much of my best stuff, and I had an opportunity after that tournament to kind of think about how I was letting some of those things affect me, and I did a really, really good job the last four events of the summer, just knowing that it was there, but not letting it be at the forefront of my mind. And every time I would kind of think about it, whether it be on or off the golf course, just reminding myself that at the end of the day, I can't control that. I could go out and finish, third, second, whatever, and it's still up to a committee. There's no, there's only so much I can control. And I did a really, really good job, especially at the Western and the USAM, knowing how important those two tournaments were, just kind of focusing in on what I could control and focusing in on, the next shot basically. And yeah, but I think it was a strength coming down the stretch that I was able to do that because it was a very pressure filled situation for sure.
Where did you feel like you were in terms of your status for that team going into the quarterfinals of the USAM against Nile?
I felt like it was pretty strong. I felt like between quarter semifinals and the championship match, everyone there are a handful of us left in that. I think there were three or four guys that were all in the bubble left, maybe in the round of 16. And
Hmm.
so at that point, it was more just whoever kind of makes it the furthest. So um, yeah, I wasn't thinking about it too much, but I felt like I had done a lot of what I could do, and I just kept trying to do the same thing, which was control what I could control. And it was a great match. I wish I could go back and flip the script, but it was an awesome match. And yeah, I left everything out there, and Captain Smith came up and said something after that. He hoped I'd be able to run it back against those guys in a few weeks. And so yeah, I just kind of sat on edge there for a day or so and hoped.
Yeah, what was that like? Being in that because I had to do interviews in it, but to basically go up against a kid where his entire hometown is out there following, walking the fairways, making noise. I mean, people talk about the Ryder Cup. These guys were in the fairway with you. What was that like, and how proud are you of yourself for being able to handle that type of atmosphere?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience, and I'm grateful I got to experience it. I think I think there's a couple ways I could look at it. I could look at it and say, the crowd maybe wasn't perfect and this or that. But at the end of the day, you're still like, no one was out there yelling in my backswing. No one was out there. Like, it wasn't, honestly, compared to this past week, what we saw, it was pretty tame.
Yeah, not even
So,
close. Yeah.
um, yeah, it was a great experience to play in that sort of an environment, and it's something that I hope I get to experience again because I think normally if you're experiencing something like that, that means you're probably playing somewhere else other than a USAM on American soil. So the next time that I'm in a situation like that, I know I'll be ready, and yeah, it was great preparation for sure.
Your PGA Tour University clock started, I think, after NCAA's. So, but you already have three top tens toward that, as we were talking about earlier. Where does that rank in terms of goals for the next 2 years, and what are some of your long term goals as you finish out your college career?
Yeah, I mean, PGA Tour U has been such a great program, and I think I'm taking the same approach that I took to how I you know took to the Walker Cup to PGA Tour U, that it's such an out there, um, it's so far away, and even as it gets closer, it shouldn't change how much it's on my mind. I think if I can just go out and focus on playing good golf, one tournament at a time, one round at a time, one shot at a time, then whatever happens, happens, and I can live with that. Um, the only thing I want to be able to say that I didn't do is go out there and, thought about PGA Tour U and thought about this and thought about, where I was going into the week and what, X finish would do for me, because I feel like if I'm in that headspace, then I haven't done everything I can do to play well. And, long term, obviously the goal is a PGA Tour card and, to play and win on the PGA Tour, and everyone's got a different path to get there. So we'll see what that path holds for me.
So you have two more events left this fall. You guys, I believe, host, and then you play North
Correct.
Carolina's event, the Williams Cup. Maybe another potential rematch with Niall. You guys have seen a lot of each other, but
Yeah.
what's it like? It's going to be, you know, I assume maybe is there a football game that overlaps kind of with the week of your guys' home event, or what's that going to be
Yeah.
like? What's it
Yeah.
like
So
playing at
we've
home?
we've got our home event's awesome. Coach does such a great job of making the event, a really good golf tournament and also a really fun experience for everyone. Um, this year we actually pushed the tournament back a day. So all the teams are going to the football game on Saturday. Sunday's the practice round. We have dinner at the stadium, and afterwards everyone goes out on the field, and we lightly jog and throw a football around.
Okay,
um, Make sure we don't jam any fingers or roll any ankles.
kick field goals.
Yeah, yeah. Ours are more from the 20 to 25 range. There are some, there's people out there that are trying to boot them in from 45, but um, yeah, it's a really cool experience, just to be out there, especially having seen a game the day before. For a lot of people, it'll be awesome. And then um, yeah, the tournament's 36 Monday and 18 Tuesday.
Awesome. Well, Jacob, thanks so much for the time. I know you got to get to class. What class are you going to?
I'm going to predictive analytics.
Okay. What's your
So it's
major?
a business analytics. So it's an R. It's basically an R class.
All right. Well, I'll be crossing my fingers that you pass your next test and that because
Thank you.
I wouldn't be able
Yeah,
to.
I appreciate
Well,
it.
again, thanks so much, and we'll see you at some point down the road.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, and